Welcome to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. My name is Frank. I am the host of the show. In this podcast, I discuss and review movies new and old. You can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can watch the podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Just look for the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. The handle on X is at Bend Your Ear Pod. You can email the show at bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. The website for the show is letmebendyourear.com. Before I get into the movie I'm going to discuss today, if you can support the show, I would appreciate it. If you've listened to the last few episodes, kind of the New Year's resolution for the podcast in 2025 is to grow the viewership and the listeners of this show. And if you have the ability to support the show financially, that'd be great. There's a QR code right there on the left, or you can go to the X page at Bend Your Ear Pod and go to the tip jar. Again, that'll offset the cost of putting on the show. All right, so I'm very excited to review this movie. I'm going to an older movie back from the 70s called The Taking of Pelham 123. Now, I watched this movie, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I think it was one of those viewings. It was the first time I had ever seen it. And I think I remember watching it late at night. I was kind of tired, so I wasn't fully engaged in the movie. So I decided to rewatch it before I did the review, and I'm glad I did. Now, if you know anything about the movie has been remade twice. It was remade in 1998 with Vincent D'Onofrio, and it was remade again. And I saw the remake. I don't remember if I liked or disliked it. It was like 2006. It starred Denzel Washington and John Travolta in the second remake. It's based on a 1973 novel, but again, I'm reviewing the original 1974 film set in New York, 70s movie. So the main thing about the movie before I even get into the review. Now, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know I'm a champion of character actors. So, of course, you know, you have movie stars, you have superstars, you have stars that are, you know, headlining movies that you know who they are, all through the history of movies. I am a huge fan of the character actor. Of course, for a lot of people, especially if they don't watch movies a lot, character actors are actors that you see in a bunch of stuff. You know their face, you may not know their name, but the thing that they all have in common is when a character actor is in a role, no matter how small or how big, or even if occasionally they get to star in a film, they're always fantastic, regardless of the quality of the movie. You can count on them to always be good, from a 30-second role to a co-starring role to a starring role. And it's fantastic, and I love that. So before we even get into the review, I just want to go through the cast of this film, okay? The movie stars Walter Matthau, all right? So, of course, big star, you know him, Odd Couple, Bad News Bears, of course, in the 90s, Grumpy Old Men. Fantastic actor, fantastic range, comedy, drama. And here he brings both his comedy and drama chops as Lieutenant Zachary Garber of the Transit Police. You have Robert Shaw, of course, famous for Jaws and The Sting, among other films. You've got Martin Balsam, one of my favorite character actors. He's worked with Sidney Lumet, obviously starting in 12 Angry Men. Fantastic actor. Hector Elizondo. A lot of people know him from his role in Pretty Woman. Again, this is what I love about character actors. He's got the small role as the concierge in the hotel where Julia Roberts' character is at, and becomes her friend, and he's great in everything. He's one of the bad guys here. Earl Hindman is in this movie. Now, that name may not be familiar to you at all. When I was doing my research, and I'm like, that name sounds familiar. He was the neighbor in Home Improvement that you only saw the top of his head for the 9 years that show was on the air. He is in this film. You have Dick O'Neill, another character actor who's always in movies where he either plays like a cop or a lieutenant or something like that. Just another great character actor. Tony Roberts, of course, a Broadway and movie actor. He's been in a few Woody Allen films. You have Jerry Stiller. Yes, that Jerry Stiller from King of Queens and from Seinfeld. You've got Doris Roberts of Everybody Loves Raymond in a small role in this movie as well. So this is a deep bench of very good actors that are all fantastic in this movie, and I'll get to that in a minute. So, The Taking of Pelham 123, again, was released in 1974, was directed by Joseph Sargent. So, the movie starts with 4 men wearing disguises that board the downtown 6 train in New York City, also known as Pelham 123. So they start to call each other code names. So it's Mr. Blue, Mr. Green, Mr. Gray, and Mr. Brown. So if that sounds familiar to you, if you've seen the 1992 Quentin Tarantino film Reservoir Dogs, the robbers in that film, it's a heist movie as well, the robbers in that film use colors as well. So obviously that's his nod to the taking of Pelham 123, since obviously they did that first. So they get on a train, they commandeer one of the trains and overtake the conductor. And this is in the front car of the train, of course. So there's 18 people on this train, and they take they detach the car from the rest of the train and take the passengers on that front train hostage. So Mr. Blue contacts the lieutenant at the transit station saying that they've taken it hostage. So he tells them, Mr. Blue tells them that they have taken the train hostage and they demand $1 million to be delivered to them in exactly 1 hour. And for every minute they are late, if they do not deliver the $1 million, they will kill a passenger. So that's the simple setup. So what we have is a hostage situation, obviously on a train, and the transit police, the NYPD, the mayor, everybody, of course, gets together to try to figure out what to do. So that's basically the simple setup for the film. I don't want to get too much into what happens as far as the plot itself, because I want to get into kind of the things about the movie that I love. And it's funny because, excuse me, as I was watching it the second time, I definitely, the first time I saw this, was not fully engaged, paying attention to whatever the reason was, because there's so much great stuff in this movie. And it's not even to do with the main plot of the hijacking. So when you see it, and even when you see the remake with Denzel Washington, what I do remember of it, it was kind of more of a driven action piece, obviously because of the nature of the plot. But here, this movie is what's so, I have to laugh because the thing that shocked me so much about this movie, and it goes through the performances and the way it's shot, is basically the hijacking is not really the main point of the movie for me. What I love about this movie, now I was born in New York City and I lived there till I was 8. So I've been a Floridian since then. So I'm technically a Floridian, but I do have enough memories of New York, the subway, and kind of the New York vibe. This movie captures that vibe so well. So what I mean by that is, for the entirety of this film, basically every character in the film that's not the hijackers, so Walter Matthau's character, the people at the I'm so sorry, excuse me, the people at the transit station, the mayor, the police commissioner, everybody that's involved with trying to figure out if they're going to pay this ransom, what they're going to do, how they're going to stop them, how they're going to keep people from getting killed. Like I said, you would think they would ratchet up the tension, ratchet up the suspense, and basically every character that's affected by this situation is annoyed. They're not worried. They're not scared. It's the perspective is so funny, and the entire movie is played as basically this is some annoyance, because of course the person in charge of keeping the trains running is annoyed that all the trains are getting backed up because of this situation. Of course, Walter Matthau, his style of acting is very, laconic and kind of, he seems like he's put upon, but he's very chill about the situation. In a very funny scene early in the movie, right before the hijackers make contact with the transit authority, Walter Matthau's character is showing around police officers from Japan. So he's kind of showing them around and trying to introduce them to people, and nobody wants to be bothered. They're like, yeah, whatever. So they're not very welcoming. He's doing it because he has to. So the second the hijackers make contact or he finds out that something has gone wrong, he just shoos the Japanese people away, almost relieved that something has happened to take him away from showing these people around, which again just struck me as completely hilarious. That he was just like, oh, great, I get to do something now, something else, so I can get rid of these people. And that's the tone of the movie that I actually love very much. It's very New York. It's very, I know people that don't come from New York, they think of New York people as, they don't care about anything. They want to get to what they do, take care of business. They not a lot of small talk. And this movie is just fantastic at it. Like I said, and the acting from top to bottom is fantastic. So back to the plot of the actual hijacking, what is also very good, even though I said it's not the main part, the thing that makes the movie does make the movie suspenseful and wondering what happens is, so obviously, even in the description that I give you, you're thinking, and I was thinking, okay, they've put themselves underground. They say they want the money in an hour, and of course the question of the day is, how are they going to get out? If they get the money, how are they going to escape? They're underground. There can't be any way for them to get out. And that's a question that, of course, the audience is trying to figure out, the police are trying to figure out. And as the movie progresses, you find out bits and pieces about each of the hijackers, specifically the main one, played, of course, by the great Robert Shaw. And Hector Elizondo is the kind of the hothead. You have someone that's the cool-mannered one, and you have Martin Balsam, who is, of course, fantastic. He's kind of the one that's not roped into it. He's involved because he used to work for the train station. So obviously they needed someone that had knowledge of the subway system, and he did. He was a former employee of the subway system that had a falling out issue, and now he's not there anymore. So obviously he's trying to take his revenge by doing this robbery. So he's one with the experience, kind of knows how things work. So he's the person that's the person that comes with the know-how. So of course he's not really a violent hijacker. He doesn't want to see anybody get hurt, but he does want to get that money. He thinks he's entitled to some money. And like I said, Martin Balsam plays it great, and the interplay between Shaw and Balsam is fantastic. Like I said, Elizondo is the hothead. He's fantastic as well. So as the movie progresses and the hijacking progresses, like I said, you find out more about each of the four characters. And then, of course, on the other side, you have the interactions with the lieutenant, with the police commissioner, and then the mayor, who, again, in the theme of the movie as it's going, is he's sick in bed when he finds out what's going on. And there's another fantastic scene. So Tony Roberts plays the deputy mayor, who's kind of telling, hey, look, what are we going to do? We need to pay this. So the mayor's concern, and it may be actually a legitimate concern, is at this time, or at least in this movie, New York is cash strapped. They have no money. So he's like, we don't have any money. Can't pay this money. And again, and a thing that's just funny and hilarious, he's really like stressing about paying this money. And again, he treats it like an annoyance. Like, it's like, I don't have any money. They say you don't have any money. Now I got to pay these people to get these people out. It's just, it's so funny. I think in another movie you'd be like, these people don't care about it. But it's the way it's delivered and the way it's presented. It just is, I just laughed, and it was just funny in a good way. It didn't take me out of the movie. It's just so funny. Every character in this movie basically has a high level of annoyance, and nothing really more than that. It's not that they don't care that those people get killed or not. And obviously, if the people get killed, that's bad, and it's bad for them, and it's just going to make an annoying situation worse. So it's more about getting rid of the annoyance than, oh my God, we got to save all these people. So again, that's the pleasant surprise. If you have the same kind of sarcastic attitude I do, that's the pleasant surprise with this movie, is that it's delivered in that way. And like I said, that scene where they're trying to figure out if they're going to pay the ransom in the mayor's bedroom of the mayor's mansion, Gracie Mansion, is phenomenally funny and acted. Just the conversation they have with each other is fantastic. So as you get into the third act of the film, of course, like most of it, that's where the climax takes place. So you get to find out the answer to the question. once they get the money, how are they going to get out? And that's where it's a cat and mouse game of figuring out how the hijackers have figured out how they're going to get out. And on the other side is the transit police and the authorities are going to be able to figure out what that is and stop them. So again, that part of the movie is fantastic as well. So like I said, when they get back to that, because it's kind of like getting down to business. And like I said, the last third of the movie is really, really well done in that way. And that's when it kind of goes back to, more of the straight chase movie suspense. Are the bad guys going to get away with it? Are the good guys going to win? Are any of the hostages going to be killed? How is this going to resolve itself? And it does a great job of it. And like I said, and I think as I was thinking about the movie before I taped the show is, when you read books about the 70s and films, and I know this film is not, it's not Network or All the President's Men or any of the films of the 70s that people cite as far as kind of where the country was during the 70s. So obviously, and especially the mid-70s with Watergate, very pessimistic. America's, in a bad spot. Post-Vietnam, Nixon, all that stuff that was happening in the mid-70s especially. Effective filmmaking, and some of the greatest films ever have come out in that decade. And I think this movie takes some of that as well, because like I said, I think the pessimistic tone, the way they present it in the form of this hijack movie is kind of where I think the U.S. was. Everybody was fatigued. They were just, had it with everything. And I think that attitude does permeate in this movie, and you feel it in the movie. That's why I think this is a quintessential 70s movie. And like I said, you hear this movie referenced a lot by either other filmmakers. Actually, the Beastie Boys have a line about they used the title of the film, and I forgot which song. But it's a fantastic movie. Joseph Sargent, the director. I didn't know his work. He directed mostly TV movies. He directed Jaws: The Revenge, I guess, and the '87 movie with Michael Caine, which of course even Michael Caine admits he did for the money. It's not, it's got Mario Van Peebles. I saw it once a long time ago. I don't remember it being very good at all. I know some people, of course, they champion that movie. I don't know if it's so bad it's good they champion it, but like I said, I saw it a long time ago. Don't remember it being very, very memorable. But this movie is certainly not that. This movie is fantastic. It's suspenseful and, like I said, funny. More funny than I expected. If you ride with that vibe that these actors give in this movie, it's fantastic. And it makes it supremely entertaining. And like I said, when it goes into high gear in the third act, with the execution of the hijacking and how that plays out is very, very well done. One more comment I want to make about the movie, and normally I don't, and I'm not going to give any. There's no spoilers. In talking about the tone, as I said, what I will say about the tone is at the very end of the movie, and like I said, I'm not going to tell you what happens, other than to say this: Walter Matthau gives a look at the end of this movie, a look on his face. And I'm not going to say any more than that, because once you watch the movie, you'll understand. And because it's important at the literally the very end of the movie, he gives this look that's so funny, but encapsulates exactly what was needed in that moment leading up to it. That alone is worth watching the movie for. And it's literally at the end of the movie. It is so, I laughed, but it just wrapped up the movie perfectly. So again, if you're a fan of Walter Matthau, look, he's great in this movie. Because like I said, he's got the dramatic and comedic chops, of course, to pull both of those off effortlessly. And like I said, he's the lead actor in this, and he's the lead one that's basically just matter-of-factly trying to figure it out. The best comparison I can make with Walter Matthau's performance in this movie is Peter Falk as Columbo. Now that I think about it, also from the 70s as well. It's the same thing. Columbo's methodic about it. He's kind of annoying. He just, very intelligent, figures things out. That's what Walter Matthau does to this movie. He's just matter of fact, doesn't get rattled. He maybe gets slightly irritated about things, but he doesn't go over the top. He's thinking things through. He's trying to figure out how to get out of the situation, how to resolve the situation without anyone getting killed, and just basically matter of like it's just another day at the office. And that's the thing. It's this movie ends up almost being like another day at the office, except something crazy happens. And he treats the job all the way to the end just like that. Just matter of factly when violence happens or someone gets hurt, he's just matter of factly moving through the movie. And like I said, that's the biggest surprise of taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. It's just the vibe of this movie is just so unique in this type of genre of film. That's what I really, really loved about it. And like I said, with that bench of character actors in one movie, all delivering like they always do, it's always going to make the material great. And like I said, that's why I really, really love this movie. Like I said, I am a champion for the character actor. And to see a movie with a bunch of them in it, because normally, like I said, with character actors, the way it goes is you have a movie star, a co-star, and then maybe one or two character actors if you're lucky, and doing great work. Where this one has just a ton of them, and it just makes the movie that much more enjoyable. So I am going to give The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, starring Walter Matthau, 4 stars out of 5. So on that scale, I highly recommend it. It's one I will watch again. I really enjoyed it, and I recommend that you watch it as well. I think you really enjoy it. If you're a fan of Matthau, you won't be disappointed. It's a good, suspenseful, funny movie, and it's all put together wonderfully. And like I said, it's fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I think you will too. And like I said, it's good to haven't reviewed an older movie in a while. So it's great that I'm glad I revisited this one, because definitely on the second viewing I got everything out of it that I didn't get the first time from the time I watched it. So it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. I watched it on Tubi, so you can watch it for free. Some commercials, but the movie's uncut. That's why Tubi's great for movies like that. Either movies you can't find anywhere. They show a lot of movies that aren't streaming anywhere. That you can find that are really good. So I definitely highly recommend Tubi. I watched Thief on there, which I reviewed a little bit back, the Michael Mann film. So it's a great resource for free to watch, especially older films, older really, really good films that are uncut. So that's great. There's no editing. You get to see it as it was presented in the movie. So that's always a bonus. So again, I'm going to give The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, directed by Joseph Sargent, 4 stars out of 5. And again, I want to thank everybody that's been listening to the show. I appreciate it. As I stated at the top, the resolution for the podcast this year is to grow the listenership and grow the viewership. So if you can, please subscribe to the channels that the show is available on. It's on X, on Rumble, on YouTube, and on Facebook. So just look for the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. If you could click and subscribe there. If you listen to the podcast, please, if you can, subscribe, like, and review the show. If you do that, that will increase the visibility of this program for other people that may be looking for a movie podcast to watch. So I really would like you to do that if you can rate and review. And of course, subscribe and follow. Especially if you subscribe to the video channels, you'll get notices on X and YouTube and Rumble when I go live with a new episode if you want to watch it. And again, of course, if you subscribe on a podcast network, you'll get notifications when new episodes become available. So if you could do that, that would be great. You can go to the website, letmebendyourear.com. You can download every episode all the way back to the first one. And they're all available there as well. And again, if you can financially support the show, that would be appreciated. You have a QR code right here on the left if you're watching on the video. If you're listening, you can just go to the X page at Bend Your Ear Pod and click on the tip jar. Again, that'll help defray the cost of producing the show. That'll be greatly appreciated. But again, the main goal is to grow the show. So if you know someone that's looking for a movie podcast, I hope you recommend it if you like what you hear, and recommend it to your friends and family. And another thing you can do, especially if you can't support the show financially, like I said, the easiest things you can do, and it costs nothing but a little bit of time, is click and subscribe wherever you watch the show, or rate and review wherever you listen to the show. And the last thing I would ask that would help the show grow, I'm on X all the time. I post new episodes there. If you are on X and follow me there, if you can repost my posts of new episodes, anything like that. I interact with people all the time there. So if you can spread the word on the podcast, that would be fantastic. Again, the handle on X and actually on Instagram is at Bend Your Ear Pod. So the show's on X and on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. So if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. So I'm going to wrap up this episode. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep pumping out new episodes way more frequently. Hopefully at least once a week, but hopefully more than that when I have time. So again, I'm going to wrap this up with The Taking of Pelham 123, directed by Joseph Sargent and starring Walter Matthau. I am giving that film 4 stars out of 5. So again, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Have a fantastic week. I will see you very soon. Take care.